So awareness leads to choice. And how you think of something influences how you use it, was Alexander's axiom. If you think that the breath, your breathing organ, is a tank shaped like a rectangle, and you fill it up from the bottom to the top, well, that's how you're going to use your body, and that's totally wrong. The lungs, where the breath comes, stop here in the front, and they go down the back. And the breath actually is here. That's not to say you're going to breathe high, but stop, for heaven's sake, trying to breathe into your large intestine. You can't. There is movement in the large intestine area, in the muscles of the pelvis. Yeah, they assist in the breath out. They don't drive the breath out, but they react. They contract as you breathe out. And then when they've contracted, if you release them, the air comes back in. That's a given. So you don't have to learn how to breathe, you need to learn how to breathe out. Breath in is automatic.
So how do you breathe out?
There's my next breath.
Oh, you mean breathe out completely?
Breathe out lightly enough and going up so that all the inner pelvic muscles and the lower abdominal muscles follow and contract. And if you haven't pulled down and you release that tension, the diaphragm drops and the air comes in by itself. In an instant. You can be singing, put a consonant on, let the air in and go on singing, and nobody knows you've taken a breath. None of this gasping. And you don't need to tank up. That's too much air for singing. It's too much air for most things. Wind instrumentalists have to take a bit more than singers, but not half as much as they think. If they use the air that's in the lungs, what they tend to do is top up and only use a part of it. So there's always a residue of air left in there that they're not getting out, and then the whole body doesn't work. It's locked. There's my breath in. I've got a breath in. But you don't hear it. You don't see much unless you put your hands on my back, and then you see the ribs doing that. It's like an accordion. And there's methods where they teach you to hold the ribs out. Well, that just stiffens everything. It's all like that. The ribs are up. The ribs have to be flexible and move.
I guess you also have to release everything in order for the breath to come in, right? Because if you don't, then
you release the bits that have tensed up in order, as they followed the breath out. The deep pelvic muscles, the muscles around the ribs, yes, you release those. But you do not collapse. You do not lose stature. You do not get shorter. And neither do you get shorter as you're breathing out. You don't press the air out like you're squeezing a lemon.
Why do people collapse?
It's what they're taught. They think that's what's right. And all this belly breathing, the abdominal wall being pushed way out for the breath in and pulled in for the breath out, it just destroys the whole posture. It destroys your support. Those lower abdominal muscles and stomach muscles are there to support the body in its lengthening. And you breathe round that. They move, but they don't go forward and back. And they certainly don't suddenly grip for a top note. That just locks the throat. It's the worst thing you can do. You want to have the support for your top note at the beginning of the phrase. On the very first note, that connection is there. And then your top note is just it's a passing note on the way to the next one.
To what extent do you believe that a lot of the gripping is not merely just what people are taught, but their emotional coping mechanisms?
Partly that too. Partly fear. No. They start off tied up in knots. And then they add a breathing technique and a singing technique on top of that. Makes life very difficult. That's why the Alexander technique works. People who come first to me, we spend a lot of time getting the Alexander principle there so that the body's open and flexible, and we deal with these issues. So that when they go to sing, there isn't as much in the way. And when it is in the way, they know what to do to get it out. A lot of professionals, when they come, and I say, well, the first few lessons we're going to do table work now. And when they ride that through, they all come back and after about a month and say, we haven't been singing very much and my voice is much better.